Hello everyone. So I'm an entrepreneur and a regular contributor to open source software. And today I want to share an important lesson I've learned about open source. It all started during a meeting for an open source project I was involved in. So let me share my story. I was part of the gang organizing an awesome European conference on an open source project that was all about teaching programming. I had been involved with this project for years, using this software with hundreds of users. And I had this vision. I wanted to make the software super collaborative by allowing users to code together on the same screen, on real time. So, at the conference, I took the plunge and decided to invite the big boss of the project and the developer who had already worked with a similar feature. And I mean, it seemed like a perfect combo, right? We just had to join forces and make this collaborative dream a reality. But here's the kicker. We couldn't even collaborate to add a collaborative feature. That's pretty ironic. Anyway, I quickly realized that this wasn't in the project leader's agenda, and I ended up leaving the project altogether. Let me tell you, that experience got me thinking. I wondered if it was possible to create an organization where everyone's voice truly mattered, where everyone had the power to change the organization's destiny. So, how to do that? Maybe by asking Mother Nature. Well, I've always been fascinated by nature. Nature is a kind of my Yoda master. Have you ever noticed how beautifully nature is able to self-organize itself? As an engineer and researcher, I've spent years studying ants, bees, and all these social animals. I was applying my research to a swarm of robots, designing their distributed artificial intelligence. All these self-organized systems have something in common, all of them. Rules. They all follow rules. It's like a social code, I like to call it a social ware, ingrained in their behavior that makes the whole system able to self-organize itself. So, when I jumped into the entrepreneur game, I had this wild idea. I wanted to create a company that embraced the power of self-organization. A company with this open source mindset, you know, with the peer-to-peer vibe. My first self-organization experiment turned into a total disaster. The company took almost 5 years to die. And I thought that I was a kind of self-organization guru, an expert. Actually, it was all theory. And as the CEO, my grand plan was to empower my team to take charge, to be proactive. I'd be like, hey, you're free to make things happen. So let's go for it. And it felt like there was this kind of hidden organization structure, this force that held people back from taking any real initiative. So I started from scratch. And I created a cooperative of trainer and freelance developers. And I did what any good researcher would do. I dove headfirst into studying the state-of-the-art worldwide of self-management. I wanted to know all about the best approaches for self-management, self-governance, self-organization in companies. And I trained myself in these cutting-edge organization models that blew my mind. And finally, I nailed it. I combine the best practices to design an organization called Democratic Commons. And we've been experimenting with this model for over 4 years now. And it's working. We operate with an open source mindset, embracing peer-to-peer collaboration while remaining efficient. So, in a traditional company, when you want to hire someone, you usually rely on a static job description, right? But in an open source community, that approach just doesn't fly. I mean, you can't have some boss giving you orders, giving orders to developers, for instance, to fix a bug. It just doesn't work like that. Instead of a static job description, we use roles that define responsibilities. A role is the building block of our democratic commons. A role is all about responsibilities, explicitly defined. And a person can take on multiple roles at the same time. It's like wearing different suits, you know, and this responsibility can change over time. This change happens through a collective process, a governance process that captures the evolution of the role. And the person playing that role becomes the captain, the CEO of that role. And what do you think creates more commitment within an organization? Waiting for some boss to give you permission, like a kid with their parents? Or having the real power to take initiative? An organization like that is bound to be more productive, more profitable. We can make more money with the same people just by organizing things differently. It leads to higher productivity, less turnover, and more fulfillment. Moreover, it encourages dialogue and communication between equals. So in our democratic common, everyone's got the freedom to participate as long as they follow the organization's rules, and that's important. You know, it's just like when you play a board game or join a collective game, or even when you come to a conference like this one. You know the drill, right? You've got to play by the rules of the road. Well, in a democratic common, we say goodbye to the whole concept of subordination. Instead, we build our bonds based on adherence to the community's rules. It's a whole new way of working. Sure, sometimes we encounter issues or malfunctions, just like bugs in software. And to maintain collective cohesion, we fix bugs in our social code through a trial and error process. We integrate rules that address these issues, ensuring that anyone impacted has a say. That's how we keep evolving and learning. It's a trial and error journey that keeps our organization improving. Now, I can see some of you thinking, well, that all sounds great, but what about those troublemaker in my open source project? Well, what happens when someone goes against the rules of a board game or a collective game? Any ideas? Do you have any ideas? No ideas? Yeah. No, you have a referee. You have a referee. You bring in the referee. So in our company, we have, the name of our company is Babel.coop. We have a Babel coach. We name it like that, which is like a referee in our community. Instead of just enforcing sanction, we take a pedagogical approach. We explain rules to those who are unfamiliar with them. And if someone's not satisfied with a rule, well, in a democratic common, you have different avenues within the organization to meet your needs. And in this case, we discuss it at a governance meeting and propose new rules. This way of operating, it's way more agile than those traditional companies. Hierarchical structures are like dinosaurs. They might be powerful, sure, but they are slow. Peer-to-peer, on the other hand, is like a mammal, quick, responsive. And the power comes from playing together, forming that peer-to-peer community. And about community, let's about building a community. You know, when I first started my company, I had this burning question into my mind. How the heck do you create a real tight-knit community? How do you make all these people, with all their talents, their skills, truly feel like they're part of something bigger? And the answer was pretty painful. I had to fire myself as a CEO. Yeah, you heard me right. I had to let go with all that title, that position. I had to accept the fact that maybe my company should turn into a shoe store. But that's the level of commitment that I had to make to create the space for a genuine community to thrive. I had to shift from my company to our company. And you know, you might be wondering, how did I manage to do that? Well, it all comes down to one word: Constitution. The Constitution became our supreme text, our guiding light. It laid out the rules for how we could change the rules. It defined our organization's core values and described how power is distributed among us. From that moment on, I wasn't about the community anymore. I became a part of it, just like everyone else. So that's the secret sauce. Letting go, embracing the Constitution, and becoming a member of the community. Explaining the intricacies of a democratic commons can be challenging, just like explaining the rules of soccer to a child with a rule book. To truly understand, really you have to experience it firsthand. So if you're curious, I invite you to observe our meetings. You're welcome, and take workshop to get a taste of democratic commons. And maybe just use it for your current open source project, or maybe the next one, just to taste it. The entire social code of our democratic commons will soon be available in the public domain, providing a battlefield-tested framework for you to adapt to your own organization, your own open source project. Now, here's something I strongly believe in. Open source community could lead the way in a new way of production, a democratic mode of production. Today, users demand more than ever respect for their privacy, transparency, and control over their digital tools. It's about doing business with democratic values and ethics, respecting privacy, transparency. It's all about building trust. We can even envision a certification of democratic production like that. Granting transparency and ethical practices. So democracy, free software, open source, Creative Commons, democratic commons. Do you connect the dots? It's all about freedom. And freedom is home for a human being. And democratic common, I think so, is home for freedom. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Samir. Do we have maybe one question from the audience?
Sorry, I hacked the W2 logo, so maybe don't sue me, please.